What's happening, Wargamers? Welcome to another video from Aegis Brand Studios. As usual, I'm Leland, your host of both Battle Reports and Potato Opinions, and today we're going to talk about the stealth drop that AMG put down late last week. So remember, guys, if you enjoy this content, do me a favor, get the algorithm going below, comment, like, subscribe, all that sort of great stuff. If you want to help out financially, you can go to patreon.com/AegisBrandStudios or even check out the YouTube membership options. Both get you access to the community Discord, or check out iWargame and use code AegisBrand to save 10% on one of those wonderful mats. So yeah, last week AMG dropped down some rather important changes to things that are happening in Marvel Crisis Protocol. Two characters got changed in Thor 2, Thor Hero of Midgard, and Thanos. The Thor changes, I know it's probably not me. I'm going to take credit for it, but I know it's probably not me. But that happened. Hellfire Club got a rather big shakeup as well. In addition, the Infinity Gem for Reality, as well as a couple new sort of like keyword special abilities showed up. So we're going to take this a little bit at a time. I'm going to talk about Hellfire Club first. Two big things happened to this one. Is that, the big thing really is the affiliation change up. Hellfire Club used to sort of be an agnostic affiliation where you could just slide anyone into the roster that you wanted. Basically allowed you to play the best characters in the game with a rather good leadership. That is no longer the case. They now officially have an affiliated list of characters that can take. I'm not a Hellfire Club player, but looking at this list, that's rough, man. For any Hellfire Club players out there, that is really rough. That is making a team out of that. I'm sure you can make a team out of that, but you're looking at a lot of really, really odd, well, not odd, but really difficult pieces to work with outside of their normal affiliations or without the right support in there. I mean, just off the hop, the characters that I personally look at that I feel can slot in pretty easily. Psylocke, I think, goes in a lot of good places. Storm's an interesting one. Sunspot I like, but I always find his range is a little bit too short. But then we also have characters like Sandra Nova, Magneto, Mr. Sinister, Omega Red, Shadow King. These are characters like Magneto sees play in Brotherhood, but you don't see him splashed a whole lot. And a lot of these other characters you just don't tend to see a lot of either. So I do kind of feel bad for the Hellfire Club players out there because that is a rather big change for that one. Next up, we have the Infinity Gem Reality. This one is also a big change because now it actually costs something. So anytime you're running it on Thanos, well, I guess not Thanos, but anytime you're running it on Corvus, which was a very popular place for it to be, especially in Black Order, just being able to count that skull as a crit was a huge deal. But the card actually does two things. First off, it's now working within the confines of the timing chart, in that there was actually a point where it resolves, whereas before it was you always treated one. If you had any way to get rid of that one skull, another skull would become the one treated as the crit there. So they've kind of fixed that interaction. They make it work within the rules. So basically it now operates before the resolve critical step. So once it counts it, that's it. That counts as the skull for the rest of this particular interaction. And it counting one power, basically it's going to slow Corvus down. He's still a powerhouse, but he's going to have to always make sure he banks some of that power for this particular one. And at this point, it's attack, defense, and dodge dice. I can't remember if it used to work on objectives as well, but they've basically more clearly defined what the reality gem can do for you, when it's supposed to operate, and having that power. So all in all, I think very good changes, but it definitely impacts the way Corvus gets played. We do have an update to the restricted, the BNR list. Brothers in Arms has been made it to the banned list at this point, so it is not something you're going to be using in challenger events or anything like that. Casually, I mean, if you and your opponent want to use it, go for it, but just keep in mind that officially it has hit the ban list. With the next changes we're going to talk about, I don't know how important this was, but it was still a card that needed to get adjusted in some form or another. As far as the new sort of innate superpowers we see, we got Peerless, Reserve, and Stealth. Very nice to see Stealth kind of become a little bit more of a keyword, like a generic keyword thing. We know what Stealth does. Reserve is an interesting one as well. I don't know if we actually have it on any characters yet. I can't think of. The big one, though, is Peerless. There's only one character that has it. That's Thanos. And Peerless is an innate superpower that basically says the character cannot be part of the same squad as another character with the Peerless superpower. This could mean a couple things. I know in the past I've always kind of joked about the idea of making 6+ threats restricted. I think this is kind of an adjacent move to that one, because I think we're probably going to be seeing on those big egotistical villains. I wouldn't be surprised if Dormammu gets a rework and we see Peerless on that. I wouldn't be surprised if some other characters, like potentially a Doctor Doom, if he hits with Fantastic Four, I could see him having a Peerless as well. So it's going to be an interesting one to see how AMG actually rolls this one out and how it is applied to the various characters in the game. I think it's a really interesting one, and I think it's going to be a good one to sort of keep that big kaiju-defined meta a little bit more controlled. Because in the past, we've had games where it's been like CGR and Hulk, or Thanos and Hulk, Thanos and CGR. Just these two overwhelming characters that just are able to dominate the board during their particular moments in time. So getting rid of that ability with characters going forward, and potentially errata, we'll see if that happens, I think is really interesting. Let's talk about the two big ones, though, and those are the character card changes. Thanos and Thor Hero of Midgard got some adjustments here. So let's talk about Thanos first. And the big one here is that he has lost the superpower that all Infinity Gem superpowers are free for him to use. That used to be on his card. It's now actually been moved into his leadership, the Death's Agenda. So not only on his healthy side will you get victory points for enemies being dazed or KO'd, but that's also how he gets his free use of the Infinity Gems as well. Another really important note is that the leadership has changed on the injured side. I believe it used to be rerolls, I can't remember, but now the victory point thing transfers over to the injured side as well, which means anytime you're dazing or KOing, regardless of what side Thanos is on, you're going to get that extra victory point. I think this one is sort of a lateral move for Black Order. I think where they've been slowed down in some things, this kind of keeps the pace going for how they score points. In addition, his throw has been adjusted a little bit. It's now a double trigger of hit wild to get the throw off. I don't think the throw was really a huge deal on Thanos, but it's definitely it definitely slows him down a little bit on a 6-die attack. The other big one is for Thanos was the change to Cosmic Portal. Cosmic Portal used to be able to target any character and basically abduct them, move them within range 2. It has been changed so it's now only allied characters. In addition, he still does not have it on his injured side as well. This is a big change for Thanos. Now, being on the receiving end of a Thanos play was always very difficult, because a very common Black Order player, even Thanos play, was basically to kidnap an enemy character and just let the rest of the team just gang beat them, put them out of position, put them in a really bad spot going to the next round. That is not something Thanos can do with the Cosmic Portals anymore. He still has access to stones, which allow him to do that, but it's not something he's just going to be able to as much disrupt the enemy placement. Overall, this is a big change for Thanos. Outside of Black Order, Thanos his power economy is just absolutely demolished at this point. If he now has to start paying for powers paying the power to use the stones, that's a huge deal. Cosmic Portal not having as much utility as it once did. This is all really big for Thanos. The days of the Thanos splash, I think, are pretty much over at this point. Even though he'd be gaining a whole bunch of extra power for having the gems on him, it doesn't make up for the fact that it's now very expensive. He used to be able to do almost his entire kit every single turn when he activated. That's now been reduced significantly. I still think he's solid within Black Order. Like the Cosmic Portal change, yeah, you can't kidnap people anymore, but you can still get your other guys up the table. You still have access to the other gems to do a lot of stuff with it. Whether or not this was a step too far, I personally don't think it was. I think it killed the splash, and I think that's exactly what needed to be done. Thanos was very oppressive in a lot of splash places, giving teams utility that they really shouldn't have had access to. Because of the way they were built. So I'm very happy about this change, but I can understand why Black Order players, or at least Thanos players, might be a little upset with it, because he's definitely not the powerhouse he used to be. The other change was Thor Hero of Midgard. Now this one is an interesting one. I've already seen a lot of people use the term unplayable. He's been nerfed to the ground. I'm going to preface this. All my thoughts are, I think Thor 2 is still very playable. The big difference is that he is not a missile that you can just fire and forget. He does need a little bit of support now, which I think is very important. I still think he definitely impacts the board in a lot of really strong ways here. So what changed with him? Well, Have At Thee has gone up a power. It's now 4 instead of 3 power. This is excellent because that having that pounce online so quickly was always really dangerous. It was a lot of extra movement that he got. It was a lot of extra potential damage that he was shelling out. Being at 4 power slows him down, and it means he can't use his whole kit all the time. So, in my opinion, good change, very good change. Was not on my radar. I wasn't thinking about increasing the cost of it. But I look at this one, I'm actually kind of for it. The other big change that he had on him is Odinson's Ire received a couple changes. The first one is that it's now only 6 dice, not 7. And it's also range 2. Now, the interesting thing here is that I really like the range 2 on Odinson's Ire. I think that is a lot more appropriate for this sort of attack. Being able to attack at range 3, especially with that pounce, that large base, that medium move, it was very easy for him to threaten chunks of the board with a very strong attack. So I really like this going down to range 2. I think this was a fine change on it. Once again, was not on my radar, but it's something I really appreciate. The 6 dice, however, going down from 7 dice to 6, this one might have been a little overkill and how everything went down for him. I think at 7 dice, the dice pool was never really the issue with Thor. It was his ability to reach out and hit targets that were range 3 away. It was his ability to move around and throw extra damage through his throw or his pounce. So that extra die, I don't think that was a big deal. I don't think that was required to bring Thor into line with a lot of other characters. And I think the 3 of these changes stacked on top of each other does present Thor with some interesting problems. I personally would have stopped at the range and the change in power cost to pounce. All that being said, I think with the right support network, Thor 2 is actually still a very dangerous character to have on the table. It's just, you can't just fire him off in the middle of nowhere and expect him to get all the work done, which is what he was doing. That was the big problem with Thor 2. He now actually has to work a little bit more within the confines of his team. He might need some help getting him up the board. He might need some help with some dice rerolls and dice fixing. But overall, he's still going to be a strong character, I think. I think the cries of him being unplayable are definitely overblown. I think Thor 2 is still very good on the table. So there we go. Those are the big changes that AMG kind of stealth dropped on us out of nowhere at the end of last week. I know I should have gotten this out a little bit sooner. Unfortunately, I've been down with a back injury, so that's why it's coming out now and not, the Monday or even the day of type deal. But those are my thoughts on the changes. I think overall, strong changes across the board. I think Hellfire Club needed to be reined in a little bit. I do think that the affiliation list might have hit them a little bit too hard. And I know there's a lot of comic purists out there who are saying, well, why isn't so-and-so on here? Why isn't this person there? I think they might have been able to be a little bit more generous with the affiliation list on that particular front. We're going to see how this shakes out for Hellfire Club, but right now it doesn't look terribly positive. But you can still bring good stuff in addition to Emma, to affiliated, and then whoever. So I do think that there's still some play in Hellfire Club. They're just not going to be dominating with that great leadership and being able to play the best cards. We're going to see where Thanos and Black Order land with these changes. I think for Black Order, they've been hit a little bit, but I do think that they're still generally that mid-range team type deal. We're not really seeing them blow up the meta at all. So we're going to see how that gets adjusted. Obviously, they're going to take a little bit of a hit from this one because this was just kind of straight nerfings or downward adjustments for both Corvus and Thanos because of the reality and how Thanos works now. Thor, I think, still works great in the Asgard affiliation. I think he's still very splashable in some other affiliations. I still really like him in Avengers, both Steve and Sam. So I think Thor is going to be fine. He's going to land on his feet perfectly well in this regard. And then I'm very excited to see where Peerless goes with all this. So there we go. That's my thoughts on the AMG changes that we saw last week. I'd love to hear your opinions below, both good, bad, all that sort of great stuff. And we're going to see you guys next time. Happy wargaming.